So I'd like to welcome you to this particular presentation where we look at the impact of educational technology and student teacher attachment on educational self-perception. And we are going to use a multiple linear regression as a technique for data analysis. And the presenters are listed here. This is me. And we have also Samuel and then Caroline Chemosit. For all correspondence, you can write to me. This is my email address. This particular study was completed through the collaboration between ISU and University of Kabianga in Kenya, and was also supported by the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. We have three primary purposes. One of them is to investigate whether there are significant mean differences in students' perceived attitudes and attachment to their teacher as a function of school level and gender. So for the first purpose here, our dependent variable is student educational perspectives, while our independent variables, we have the first one as school level. This is the first one, and then we have also the second one, gender. And then we look at the same dependent variable, student educational perspective. The second purpose here uses educational technology usage. Educational technology usage as the dependent variable, and then we maintain the two independent variables, school level and gender. And then the third one, look at a relationship between student educational perspectives as relate to the other variables, educational technology usage. We have attitude and attachment to their teacher, and then we also look at school level and gender. So we have also school level, and then we have also gender. So we have 4 predictors. And then the specific objectives that guided the study. First, we wanted to explore the structure of a newly developed measure of multiple dimensions of school teaching and learning environment. And then the second, we were interested in reporting the findings of students' perceptions of elements of school culture. And the third objective was to discuss the implications of understanding school-level learning environments from a school culture perspective. The focus of prior research that this particular study depended on is that there was a report from the U.S. Department of Education this year, 2017, that American society is growing increasingly technologically in both how individuals interact and how individuals learn, or how they use technology as a tool for learning. And then also we know in modern social life, it's comprised of networks of people that communicate, teach, and learn through the usage of advanced tools such as smartphones and the internet. We have also the tablets, the computers, as reported in the United States Department of Education report 2017. Therefore, the most basic level, or at the most basic level, student learning occurs as an interaction of interpersonal relations and tools. So the tools they use in learning and how they interact with them is important when it comes to learning, as reported in the research completed in 2013 and 1978 by these researchers. A student-teacher attachment is one of the underpinning factors of successful social relationships within the school setting that can have dramatic effects on students' perceptions of academic proficiency and ability. This was reported in the research completed by these researchers. The present study is significant in a number of ways. One of them is that the importance of educational technology to student learning is important in understanding the effects of school level and gender on student use of technology. The previous research has generally focused on college-age students. But this particular study is going to look at K through 12 students, focusing on the 8th and the 12th grade students. Furthermore, previous research has consistently shown that males tend to be more comfortable with technology usage, but there is very little in the way of examining the combined effects of school level and gender. So this study is going to look at technology in relation to school level and also gender. The study was guided by 3 research questions. One of them is to look at whether there are significant mean differences in student perceived attitudes and attachment to their teacher as a function of school level and gender. So this was a 2-factor analysis of variance, where the dependent variable was student educational perspectives, while the independent variables were 2 of them: school level, which are 2 levels, the 8th grade and the 12th grade, and then we had also gender, that are also 2 levels, male, female. Therefore, we had a 2 by 2 and over. A 2 by 2 and over. We have gender. Yeah, this is male, female. And then school level, we have the 8th grade and then the 12th grade. For the second research question, we look at the same independent variables, gender, and school level. But this time the dependent variable is student use of technology. So this was also a 2x2 analysis of variance. And then research question number 3, we look at the relationship between student educational perspectives as a function of 4 variables or 4 predictors. The first one being educational technology usage, and the second one was attitude and attachment to teachers, and then the third one was school level, and then the fourth one was gender. So the third one was gender. When it came to the methodology of the study, we use a survey to collect data. So we use survey to collect information from primary or elementary school and secondary school students on the key variables of the study. This was a cross-sectional research design where students were surveyed at a specific point in time on selected school teaching and learning environment variables. And then we also use a correlational design as a postdoc technique to collect data and to develop a framework for data analysis in the study. So where we look at relationships among variables, but there was no manipulation, and this was used in an attempt to develop a regression model for examining the relative contribution of each of the predictor variables. Looking at student educational perspective. The measures that we looked at here, we focus on 3. The first one is educational technology usage. The second one there was attitude and attachment to teachers, and then the third one was student educational perspective. And we also look at gender and school level. And these measures, we look at the first one, attitude and attachment to teachers. This is comprised of the sum of responses for 10 survey items, and participants responded using a 4-point Likert scale, where 1 was strongly disagree, 2 was disagree, 3 was agree, 4 was strongly agree. And the same scale was used for the other 2 variables. Educational technology usage was a construct or a subscale which comprised of 8 survey items, and participants responded using a 4-point scale. And then we also look at student educational perspective. This was also made up of 12 survey items that also use a 4-point scale as the rest of the study constructs. A complete list of the survey items associated with each of the 3 constructs is provided elsewhere in the study and as part of the appendix. Table 1 that follows in the next slide will summarize for us the Cromba reliability coefficients of the 3 constructs of the ETU, SEP, and AAT. Attitude and attachment to teachers. This one comprised of 10 items. And the Cromba reliability coefficient was 0.70, while educational technology usage comprised of 8 items, and the Cromba reliability coefficient was 0.85, while student educational perspectives we had 12 items, and the Cromba reliability coefficient was 0.76. The sample of the study came from 1,000 elementary and secondary school students in Kenya. Data were collected using individual instrument packets that were distributed to students within each of the 70 schools that participated, that were distributed in 7 school divisions in one of the counties in Kenya called Kericho. And the distribution of the instruments or the surveys were done through the central office personnel, spread out throughout the 7 school divisions. They first explained the purpose of the study. They assured students of anonymity and then encouraged participation, and they left the classrooms while participants completed the set of measures. All the data was collected and participants were assured anonymity of responses. All completed surveys were put into seal envelopes and collected by designated central office personnel. A complete and usable surveys were received from 450 students, yielding an overall response rate of 45%. We completed 5 kinds of analyses. First, we look at the descriptive statistics of the instrument items. And then we also look at the subscales. Here we are focusing on 3 subscales. Attitude and attachment to teachers. We had also educational technology usage, and then we also have student educational perspectives. We also conducted a series of exploratory principal components analysis where we use Varimax procedure to identify latent constructs, and we focus on 3 of them. There were several of them, but this time focus on the 3. We also completed reliability analysis of the 3 components or factors, and the focus here was to explore the data internal consistency. We also completed a 2-factor analysis of variance, and then finally we look at the multiple linear regression. The descriptive statistics that we have here, we have frequency distributions. This was the school level. We had 399 students coming from elementary school, which is equivalent to 88.7% of the total sample. And then the high school students, they were 51, which was about 11.3% of the total sample. When it came to gender, we had 221 female participants. That was equivalent to 49.1% of the total sample, while the male participants were 203, making a percent equivalent to 45.1%. The analysis of variance summary results, when we look at the student educational perspectives as our dependent variable, and school level and gender as our independent variables. The overall model, the overall analysis of variance model was significant, and the overall model explained about 6% of the variance in the dependent variable, that is in student educational perspectives. There are never indicated no significant interaction effect between gender and school level, and the effect size was very small. We look at the main effects, gender, and we also look at the school level main effect. And here, only the school level main effect indicated a significant mean difference between elementary school and high school. The school main effects indicated that elementary school students tended to have a higher educational technology usage mean score for both male and female students than was the case with the secondary school students. The regression analysis indicated that the 4 predictor variables that we use to predict the dependent variable, so our dependent variable, student educational perspective, when we use gender, school level, educational technology usage, and then attitude and attachment to teachers, then the overall model explained 26% of information in student educational perspectives, or these predictors accounted for 26.4% of information in student educational perspectives. And these three were significant. And also school level was significant. Gender was the only one not significant. An elementary school student had a higher student educational perspectives than the secondary school student. And when we look at these predictors, attitude and attachment to teachers was a stronger predictor in the model than educational technology usage. This is a summary of the multiple linear regression when school level is not included as a predictor. Gender still remain non-significant. Even without school level, gender was not significant. Discussion and implications of the results. Results provided continuing support for the usefulness of measures with multiple dimensions of school teaching and learning environment. Particularly when it comes to addressing issues of school culture. Differences between elementary and secondary school students on the study variables could also be attributed to school size. We had more students from elementary school than there were for the high school, and also cohesiveness of cultural beliefs among students within school level. The study concluded with a discussion of the importance of computer technology, and the variables that were used in the study, such as attitude and attachment to what teachers and school level, and the impact those variables have on student educational perspective. Therefore, school leadership needs to be cognizant of the contribution of the variables discussed in this study to make teaching and learning environment productive and have students fully involved in nurturing a teaching and learning environment where these particular variables are enhanced so that students get value and continue to have perspectives on education, student educational perspective that will nurture learning. Thank you.